it's business owners that want to spend, and this is the very important part, that want to spend time on their business rather than time in their business. Because what can tend to happen is that when people start a business, they spend 90% of their time working in their business, managing it and running it. And if they're lucky, they get 10% of their time to actually spend time on their business, thinking about where it's going, replanning, organising, setting goals, and pushing themselves in the direction of growth for wherever growth is for them. It's knowing where they're heading and how to get there.
Welcome to the April 2021 Case broadcast. It's a very, very good day from me, Melvin Manning.
And it's hello from me, Patrick Twitchett.
Hello, Patrick. It's Patrick's Day today, and he's going to be enlightening us on the subject of only a fool journeys alone. So let's tell you a little bit about CASE. CASE stands for Connecting and Supporting Entrepreneurs. Did you spot the acronym? We run open and closed mastermind groups and run this monthly broadcast unedited on video and audio, where we want to give you, the listener, some valuable input to help you on your journey. Now, we usually put our word game at the start of the podcast, but we've chosen to do it a very different way today. So we're moving it to the end of the broadcast. So, Patrick, are you feeling good?
I am, sir.
Would you like to start the ball rolling and absolutely enlighten us and our listener, or two or more, we've got to be hopeful out there, on the subject of only a fool journeys alone?
Very good. Yes, Melvin, I shall. So it's basically in two parts. The first part of this is quite short, but within that, we're going to explain as to why we formed CASE as well today. So quite rightly, in the world, we see every now and again, we see where these backpackers have ventured off on their own in some wilderness journey, and sometimes never to be seen again because they may have been attacked, they may have got lost, they may have not told anyone where they're going. It's always good to venture anywhere in numbers, because there's safety in numbers. Now, not just for the reason of safety, but also on a journey, we can get a bit demotivated, get a bit low, and sometimes you just need encouragement from somebody else. So when you're faltering, someone can say, come on, chin up, let's go. And we see that in the armed forces, you know, they're all there jeering and helping one another along. A really good example of that, Melvin, a very quick story, is when I was at school, when I went into secondary school, I was one of the bigger lads of the year, and hence very slow when it comes to PE and sports. And about the third year seniors, which I don't know what year is that nowadays, they call it year 9, don't they, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
I made a determined effort that I was going to shed the pounds and get fit. So I wasn't going to be the last one across the line when we were doing sports. So, you know, over the course of a year probably, I started to really improve my fitness, shed the pounds, and you know, I was quite able to run. And I got quite good at long distance running. I wasn't brilliant at hurtling down the track at the 100 meters, but the 1500 meters or the 3000 meters, I could do quite well, those endurance ones. And everyone in the class had noticed that I'd made this concerted effort. And as I was coming round on the final lap on these long hauls, they would start chanting my name, the guys in my class. And it's surprising what that encouragement does, and the additional adrenaline rush that I would get from that. I would have this last minute pelt towards the finish line and overtake it, 2 or 3 people, and cross the line. And so I can appreciate when you see sporting people, the crowd cheering them on, how much extra adrenaline and how much energy you get from that encouragement from other people. Yeah. So that's why the question there, why would you journey alone? So the second and the most important part of this is the power of being together.
Yeah.
Which is pretty opposite to alone. And that's the power of the mastermind, which is what I like to call it, the power of the collective. This is the grouping together of minds. And I want to interject here as to why CASE was formed.
That'd be a good thing.
A little bit of a story. We'll pull this together. So back in the day, with a chap I met called Andy, and we would just come across each other on social media. And the reason we connected was because his birthday is exactly the same as mine. And Andy had a bucket list, and on his bucket list was to meet someone with the same birthday as him. So we connected up, and I always refer to him as my birthday buddy. And we were talking. He had a small business that he was running, and I was likewise doing the same. I invited him along to an early morning breakfast group, which he couldn't attend because his wife went out to a full-time job. He ran his business from home, and he raised their daughter. And I often come across this problem where I'd invite people to a breakfast meeting and people would say, I'm doing the school run, etc. So we decided to start a small networking group that was going to be around 10 a.m. and we wanted it to be different. I said, whatever we're going to do, everywhere's got loads of networking groups now. We've got to be different. There's got to be something different about us. And I said, look, there's a particular passion that I've had for a long time. I'd read the book, which was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in there, he talks about the concept of the mastermind and how great minds like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and Walt Disney and these people would be part of mastermind groups where they would bounce ideas off fellow entrepreneurs. So I suggested to Andy, why don't we formulate something around this? So we did, and we wanted to give it a name. So we thought long and hard about the name, and we come up with the name CASE. And CASE was the acronym Connecting and Supporting Entrepreneurs. We wanted to connect people together, but also support them on their journey and help them feel that they were coming into a place where they were going to get that support. So we held these meetings and they were really great. People would come out of them and go, oh, wow, I really like that. And we would take feedback from each meeting. And every time in that feedback, we'd ask people to tell us a subject that was bothering them, that was a challenge to them, that they wanted to know more about. And we would use that to build a topic for each month's meeting. And we still do this today, don't we, Melvin?
We do indeed.
Yeah. And people loved it. It was subjects that they wanted to know about or were passionate about. And we would cover those and use it in a brainstorming fashion, pairing off into groups of between 3 to 5 people, discussing this point, bouncing ideas off each other, and then coming back collectively to really experience that power of the collective mind and all the ideas that would keep coming in. Everyone would be making notes. It was really good. So we used to call it case networking back then, and we soon realised this wasn't a networking group. People would turn up to network and say, well, this isn't really a networking group, and we said no. So we called it Case Mastermind, because that's what it really was. So the two aspects of that, the connecting part, the idea of that was to connect people to one another, obviously, within the group. That would naturally happen. But helping them to introduce each other to their wider networks, how to expand their own personal network and to share that with other people in the group. And this is all based off the principle that you're the mean average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
And if we want to hold a thought on anything today, that's probably one of the most powerful of those thoughts, because that's the essence of life. Who you associate with is where you're going to end up. And the connecting part also is about building a strong community around the group, which we've done. And the supporting element was about the advice and the principles that collective mind in the group could provide to each other. And there's the hand holding as a group, and we've now developed that. And that power of the collective mind is always going to be better than the one singular. And we probably will mention this later on, but it's very much a motto of our group. And it's a point made by Ken Blanchard that none of us is as smart as all of us.
Yeah.
That collective group is a far greater mind than our mind can ever be alone.
Before you carry on, Patrick, can we just segue back a little bit?
Sure.
Clearly, I mean, for those who haven't quite twigged what we're going through here, Patrick is one of the founders of Case Mastermind. And how long ago did this journey begin, Patrick?
I put this back now to 2019.
So it's been going for a couple of years, basically.
Yeah.
Ish. And obviously, in itself, as a group, it's evolved and it's learned, it's educated, and it's got to the point where the group currently sits, today, which is fair to say it's educational. But let's talk about the word entrepreneur, because what I don't want any listener thinking is that they've got to be in business and moderately successful and so on and so forth. It goes back earlier than that, doesn't it, Patrick?
No, it certainly does. And actually thinking about it, I think 2018 was the year we actually founded it.
You don't look that old. I don't know how you did it.
Indeed. Thank you for that compliment, Melvin. So, yes, entrepreneurs, I think there's a real definement of that word, which probably would sort of maybe feel people were outside of that, which is not what we want people to feel.
That's right.
And I think the E wouldn't stand really for everyone, because this is a business focused group. It's people in business that want to come together and bash heads really with people of like mind. And it's budding entrepreneurs, people that may still even be in employment, that are looking to build a business of them for themselves and to break away. So it's business owners that want to spend, and this is the very important part, that want to spend time on their business rather than time in their business. Because what can tend to happen is that when people start a business, they spend 90% of their time working in their business, managing it and running it. And if they're lucky, they get 10% of their time to actually spend time on their business, thinking about where it's going, replanning, organizing, setting goals, and pushing themselves in the direction of growth for wherever growth is for them. It's knowing where they're heading and how to get there.
Yes, but Patrick, we're in challenging times right now.
Yes.
It's still the thick of disease, COVID, pandemic, all these lovely new words that have come into our vocabulary. Many people, unfortunately, have been made redundant, or they've been forced to find another way. That's very lonely, isn't it?
Absolutely. And starting out that journey is a really lonely thing. Now look, we can, with the world of the internet now, we've got loads of advice out there.
Yeah.
We can Google it all and collect it all there on the internet. Actually, not being able to bounce those ideas off other people is a very lonely thing. And we don't want people in that element of being caught up in all of that. We want them to come into a community where they feel they've got people of like mind and people that are where they want to be, or with ambitions to be where they want to be. Those similar aspirations.
Yeah.
And
so Patrick, this kind of brings us nicely to your next section.
It does. Once I conclude, just with a few more words here, I just want to bring people up to date with CASE, because we have changed and evolved it along the journey. And in that, we now run these monthly workshops where we all come together collectively, and a topic that's taken from a list of topics that's been generated from what members have requested. We also run this broadcast, which covers a topic that's going to be discussed in the that month in the workshop. So people have got almost a trailer and something to listen to in preparation for, and then they come into that workshop to discuss that as a group. We break off and we mastermind those topics, or brainstorm them, don't we, Melvin?
We do.
Indeed. So I wanted to enlighten people to know what CASE is all about and how the workshops work. So just finishing that, one thing that Melvin brought to the table was your term, Melvin, the melding of minds.
The melding of minds, yes.
Which comes from I know Star Trek was is a passion of yours, and I'm a sci-fi fiend as well.
Yeah, it's the influence of that particular moment, and obviously I'm probably a lot older than a lot of the people watching this, at this time. But you know, it is a melding. It is a coming together of. It is the unity of. It is basically the helping and the proposition being discussed as a collective. Now, these are all little phrases that, if you are a bit Star Trekky, you might pick up on.
Absolutely. And for the listeners that have no idea what we're talking about, Mr. Spock, the man from Vulcan with the pointy ears, was very well known for being able to mind meld with people, and he could meld his mind with theirs and experience their thoughts. And that's the where we get that expression from.
The expression comes from there, but the collective is actually another part of the series, which was a little bit later on, where the Borg created a community of millions of individuals, all in one mind, all on the same wavelength, all looking to survive, you know, for the collective. And in a mastermind group, in our mastermind group, I hope you don't mind me saying that, Patrick, but in our mastermind group, it's all about unity. And truly, another phrase for you guys is, we've got your back. We have the absolute interest in the creation of anyone and everyone's success. Because if you're successful, so might we be.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're nerding out on Star Trek now, talking about the Borg.
I just thought I'd throw that one in just as an interlude.
Yeah. So before we go down that rabbit hole, and look, finishing and summarising up the story of Case. 2018 led into 2019, as it would, and
I should hope so too.
That's when I got married at the start of 2019. And I remember we were on honeymoon for about 6 weeks, and Case went on a bit of a back burner and remained on that back burner for a while. Andy had to put away for his own personal reasons, and it almost got a bit shelved. So when I revamped it and brought it back, it wasn't really until Melvin came along that we really gelled around Mastermind, didn't we, Melvin?
We did, but would you like to just have another interlude for 1 second?
And just I always interlude with you.
Can you please enlighten the listeners on how you conducted yourself in the diary of your honeymoon?
Well, that is a very long interlude, and the only reason that Melvin's mentioned that is because I would refer to it as Captain's log and give a star date for every day of the honeymoon.
And nothing's changed since, Patrick?
No, there's often a Captain's log update appear on social media.
But it's Patrick's log now.
Indeed. So, and look, as Melvin and I gelled around Case, we've really developed it. We've pushed it to a place, and we just want it to be a powerhouse to help and support other people in their business journey, whatever stage of their journey they're at. So we love to meet with other people out there going through those same experiences as us. So that would be absolutely fantastic. So that's the story of Case, up to date as of 2021. Well, we're recording this in February. This isn't going to be out till a little bit later in the year, so we'll pretend it's April. I want to talk about the 5 C's in our mastermind. So this is the important elements. So I've compiled this and managed to get these these words to all start with the letter C. So the first one being checking in. Now, the whole principle of this is that we're checking in with each other, bouncing our ideas off of each other. And as I often say, Melvin, I come in with my wild, huge, exuberant and peculiar ideas and throw them into the room and then allow people to bring me back down to earth. I find that's the way my mind tends to work. It goes a little bit eccentric and then people rein me in. But that's not in a restrictive way. It's in a productive and honest way. It's encouraging each other's ideas, but just bringing them back into line if we're just getting a little bit too carried away. And that's where we can help hold each other in a stability, that we don't just, all our focus gets distracted into the wrong avenues, but can bring us back, because the whole journey is about knowing where our destination is. So we will weave here and there on our journey to the left and to the right, but it's always bringing us back to that center. So it's keeping ourselves in check and each other in check. So the second C is commitment. Now that's really holding each other accountable. That's our commitment to the group, for ourselves, but also for each other. So when we have a mastermind, we're there, we have our own section of time within a closed mastermind group, which would tend to be anywhere between 3 to 6 people. And each individual has their opportunity to bring their challenge or their idea to the room, to discuss and have everyone else's input on that idea. But at the end of that, the idea is they are going to give some level of commitment to seeing that through. We'll put a time scale on it, wherever that would be, and say, we're going to work towards achieving that. So it's holding yourself accountable to you and everyone else in the group, because when you come back the following month, you're going to be then checking in with the group and giving your commitment. So we start you off, what did you commit to last month? What did you say you were going to achieve by and when? But it's not a telling off, it's did you achieve that? If you did, great, what are we going to do to move that forward? Or if we didn't make that, why didn't we do it? Where were the failings? And let's bounce those things around the room so we can form a solution and get around the obstacle. So that's the commitment in the group. The third part, Melvin, of the mastermind is the camaraderie. How I like to refer to it as that band of brothers feeling. I was in a group once before and we were a really tight group. We all got on together well. We were a really good bunch of colleagues, but we also become a good bunch of mates. And one of the guys referred to it as a band of brothers. And it was around that time that the TV program Band of Brothers was being televised, which I'm sure you remember that.
Melvin. I do.
And
but we've got sisters now, don't forget.
Well, indeed, and not wishing to draw lines of separation. But I mean, this was a bit of a masculine program, but it was about the unity of guys in a military unit in World War II. But it was that bonding of everybody. And in that bonding, in that camaraderie, yeah, there's some banter and there's a bit of fun with each other, which is part of that. But the real part of the camaraderie is the honesty and transparency that we can have with each other.
Mm.
When you're really getting down to that nitty gritty with people, you need to be in a room of people where you build a level of trust with each other, because nothing goes outside of that room. So you can open up and be honest and transparent about where you are in your business. I'm sure you've experienced it in the networking circuit, Melvin, where there's almost a sense of bravado, because
Yes.
if we're promoting our business, we
Yes.
want everyone to feel that, you know, we're doing great, we're doing okay, isn't there?
Yeah, but the problem with networking, which is what Case doesn't do in the main, but clearly there is communication, and behind the scenes, no doubt, business gets done. But it's not the singular most important aspect of a mastermind group. In networking, unfortunately, some of these organizations, they lose their way a little bit, and then envy creeps in, big eyes creep in, and all sorts of other issues evolve from very, very unusual situations out of nothing, pretty much most of the time. Whereas within the environment of the mastermind group, for me, Patrick, it's all about family, despite the fact that everybody else might say that in their groups. But it is about, say, a very tight knit community. It's 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 family blood without being related.
Definitely, definitely. And this experience comes really from when I was in another group some time back. We all decided that we were going to have accountability partners or buddies within that group. And I sat down with one of the guys in there and I just said, look, I want us to be brutally honest with each other about everything. And we told each other some home truths, some things that people may have said behind our backs that the other person may have heard. And not only did it get us to really communicating in a really deep way with each other, but it helped us to change things that we were doing, you know, and where we were going wrong. So, and you know, you and I have those real conversations too, don't we, Melvin?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like you to, so before we close whatever we're doing today, when you get beyond your point five, I'd actually like you to just touch on the subject for all of our viewers and listeners on how that comes about, because that's a closed mastermind unit. And it'd be nice if you could just elaborate on that once you finished this section.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so moving on from camaraderie, the next point would be the fourth C would be collaboration. Now, this is a really key subject. So you're going to have to rein me in because I am getting quite passionate about this
You
particular
are.
one, Melvin.
You are.
But
There's no change there, but we don't want to change that, Patrick.
no, so collaboration, when we network with each other, we network with other individuals so we can share our network and help each other. Okay, that's the process of it, and that's why we do it. It's not about what you know, it's who you know. You know, this is a very age-old saying. And what can happen is, and you touched on it a little while ago, Melvin, talking about envy and all these sort of things, and where businesses are very similar, we can just view them as purely as competition.
Mm.
the natural human reaction is to go, right, I'm going to give you a wide berth. You're my competition. I don't want people to know about you. You probably don't want people to know about me, because we compete. And this is where business can fall down and miss on, I would say, the greatest opportunities that you can possibly have. Because we all have a business, and there's certain aspects that we're really good, and we have a niche within our business. That's a really successful business when it has a niche of perhaps a sector it can serve, or perhaps a particular thing it can do. And there's a particular gentleman that I work with, and I won't name him because I haven't discussed this with him, but we've known each other for a period of years, and he is a consultant around energy. And as you know, Melvin, my company Simplies is all about simple supplies. It's about managing the bills and the overheads of a business for people, like energy, telecoms, merchant card, and all those sort of aspects. And this particular guy, he did energy consulting, so he could attend site to look at utility connections. He can assess buildings around their carbon footprint and how to make things better, to bring savings and make it better for the environment. But he also did energy quotations. So there's an element of, oh, is this guy a bit of competition, but actually we could work together. But seeing there as an opportunity for collaboration, I've been passing him a lot of opportunities with clients where he can go in and look at their connections and do various things. Till recently, Melvin, he's turned around and said, all of my energy quotations I'm going to give to you, Patrick, to do. Now, had I pushed him away and said, no way, that would never have happened. But because we've worked together and built a trust, we now collaborate. Another great example, and a slightly quicker one, is there I was sitting in a training event one day next to a guy called Melvin Manning. And he told me that he had this telecommunications company, and we got together, and now we work really closely and collaboratively together, don't we, Melvin?
We do, and I'm delighted to say it's got more and more strong day on day.
Absolutely.
But you're actually, you're talking about the failings of certain other teachings to some degree, but we are not going to have that in Case Mastermind.
No.
Case Mastermind is to look after our fellow member, our fellow friend, our fellow colleague, and we will encourage people in the same business to collaborate. Don't turn people away because they're in the same business as you. Don't
Absolutely.
think it's competition, because the famous saying of competition is healthy. The more people in the room in the same business that can bounce off one another, the likelihood of success is much greater.
Absolutely. We can.
People do lose sight of that, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about.
We can not only work closely together, but we can also advise each other much better. The closer our businesses are to each other,
That's right.
that aspect, the more advice that we can give each other.
Oh yeah.
If we come in with that open-mindedness,
Mm.
You can achieve great things together much more than you can do alone.
Yeah.
So that's the collaborative aspect of it, where
Indeed.
people work together. Pardon?
Indeed, but with Case Mastermind, because obviously we have majored on that to some extent at the beginning of this podcast. It's kind of one of the goals, and as part of the mission statement, to get everyone to communicate, to get everyone to collaborate, to get everyone to be mindful of what each and every one of us does, with the view of never letting an opportunity go by without at least putting it to somebody who you may feel comfortable to collaborate with. And it's a very big word, that collaborate.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But
So
I think your last word really is what it's all about, though.
indeed, as we can see Melvin nudging me gently along again. The fifth and final C is connections, and this is the power of association. It's, again, as we've touched on earlier, it's mixing with people who are heading in the same direction as you, with the right mindset, that same aspiration as where you're heading.
Yeah.
Now, but these people have got their own network, and that network of contacts that they have, you have your own network of contacts too, and it's how you can introduce people to each other's networks to increase your own network in that process. It's knowing how to find out what other people are looking for, who they're looking for. And what I've tended to find in networking is, we can say, there's particular sectors that I'm looking for. For example, I like connecting with bookkeepers and accountants, but it's the personality and the individual. There's people that I've got in my network that people would think, well, why are you really spending much time with them? Because we've got the same outlook, that we're trying to help each other. And I think that ethos is where the real connections start to fly. If we can spend our time helping each other and introducing ourselves well to other people, we're expanding that network and meeting the new people, but are the right people that we need to be talking to. And again, on that point, the workshop and the broadcast for March 2021 with Nicholas Challen is covering that very topic of networking. And it's something in case that we want to be pushing more and more with our members, is to teach them how to network better.
Well, it's not so much the teaching, it's the encouraging, isn't it, to some extent? Because in order to network, you need to be a little bit more scientific as to the right place to network, the type of people you're looking to find yourself in the environment of, where you can do that bounce, where you can get that unity, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, come along to our March extravaganza with Nicholas. One of the most, how can I say, he's not world renowned, but he is one of the larger than life figures of networking in our sphere. And it'll be lovely to see you. Just book on. It's the second Friday of March. Do get onto Eventbrite and book yourself in. I think you'll find it not just encouraging, enlightening, but you'll find it extremely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
But before we go on to the next part, because I think we're slowly coming to our closure, I'd like to do an umbrella encompass C, which encompasses all of your 5 C's, Patrick, to some extent. And I'd like you to expound on it, if you don't mind. Is the all-encompassing care word, the fact of caring for ourselves, caring for our fellow member, caring for our business, and just as a full overview of all of those 5 C's, the most important thing that we have in a mastermind group is the fact of caring for one another, no matter what.
Absolutely. And I think this is where this is a dividing line in society between selflessness and selfishness.
Mm.
And we have to have that mindset. And I believe it was someone along the lines of Zig Ziglar who first coined the phrase that I will become successful when I help other people get what they need and want.
Mm.
We can help other people get what they need and want. We will ultimately get what we need and want. And I think that's almost from the law of reciprocity, we could call it reciprocal stuff, or even come into the realms of karma. If you do enough good, good will return back to you. People say, if you put it out to the universe gives it back to you. It can get a little bit woo-woo when we think of it like that. But if we're helping each other, then there's going to be others in that community that are helping us.
Sure.
And it's so much easier to function in a society or a community that operates like that.
Mm.
And I think, the fact that you actually care for and want to help each other is a mindset and an ethos. And it's a positive mindset. It's not just there trying to claw in as much as you can for yourself. We've seen that with too many other people. And there is, are you going to allow me time for a very little story, Melvin?
No, go for it. But there's a great link here when you get to the end of your story to go straight into why it's great to do a closed mastermind group.
Okay. So I'm going to give you this little story. And I don't know the origin of this story, but it's about a lot of people around a huge table with food right in the middle. It's 12 foot in diameter. They've all got 6 foot spoons and they're all seated around this table. And there's one way that people are sitting there and they're reaching into the middle of the table and they're reaching the food, but they can't get the food to their mouths because it's on the end of this long spoon. But after a while, they realize the answer to their problem is if they reach their spoon across to somebody else, they can feed them, and that individual can use their spoon to feed them. And it's a silly little story, but it's how the world really revolves and works. We've all seen, when industry and especially the finance sector and places like that can become very dog eat dog. And eventually, Melvin, we've seen it, they implode on themselves, don't they? And they collapse because everybody is clawing for their own thing. But when a society works together, that's where they can stand strong. Sure. And that's where we get the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. If we all pull together, that's a really good principle that you can base what you're going to achieve in life, in whatever you go to achieve. Think of others, and others will ultimately think of you.
That's fantastic, Patrick. I'm feeling very emotional right now. So I need you to tell me about a closed mastermind group because I'm busting at the seams.
Right, okay. Well,
no, because it's worked for us. It's worked for us.
Absolutely.
People don't realise what goes on behind closed doors.
Absolutely. And we have touched on this today. We've spoken about the closed masterminds, but to go right into that, it's a group of people where we have similar aspirations that come into a closed environment where we can all be open and transparent with each other, and every individual can share a challenge or idea within that group that can be discussed as a forum to help bring the solution. Now, we might think, okay, so it's just bandying information and bouncing it around the room, but it's more than that. I don't know, I'm sure you've experienced this, Melvin, and I told you about this the other day. There was a certain person I was looking for in my network. I'd been speaking to someone. I said, oh, well, you need to speak to this certain lady. And I said, I can't remember her name. So I went away and I thought, why can't I remember her name? And I remembered someone that I'd introduced her to. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to catch up with that person and I'm going to ask them who this person's name is. So it took a while for us to get on the phone, and he was very busy. So we arranged to meet up and speak. And part of my agenda was I'm going to find out this lady's name. And as I told you the other day, Melvin, I just got to the point of the conversation where I said, right, now look, I need to ask you this person's name. It was this lady, and I spoke to someone the other day. I wanted to put them in touch with them. And as I said that, I remembered her name.
Yeah, but you need these points. I look at them as a bit of a jerk point, but you need these little things that bring from whatever's in your inner brain to where it needs to be.
Absolutely, and that's my point in that, Melvin, that it was there.
Oh yeah,
but it needed to be brought to the surface. And what happens, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, Melvin, when you're in a mastermind group and you're brainstorming a particular subject or topic, all of a sudden, the ideas and inspirations of the other minds in the room suddenly start releasing things in your mind that you didn't even realize were in there. And you have these inspirational thoughts and ideas. And all of a sudden you're scribbling away and you're going, I didn't even know that was in there, blah, blah, blah. And you're writing all these things down and then you're sharing them into the room. That's inspiring other people.
It is.
And it is almost an exponential process that perhaps if you were locked in there too long, it would just become so huge and vast. But we
know it's not a cure for dementia. We know that. But if I can throw in my 2 pennies worth while we're on this, because as you can tell from my reminders to get you to touch on this point, the benefit to a member of a closed mastermind group is the ability to release, to free up your mind, to talk about business as well as maybe personal subjects that are causing certain blockages in your mind and what have you, causing atmospheric issues in your life. And, it is almost like going to a shrink to some degree. But speaking of my own experience over the last, it must be 14 odd months now, it's created good change. And it's also created solidarity. And the benefits of that from a personal as well as a business point of view are invaluable.
No, absolutely, Melvin. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. It's opening up your mind. And
it's actually being brave enough, because some people don't have the courage to actually release, because it is a pressure valve.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's how I think I've answered the question, Mel. That's how a mastermind group works. We then, we then, as we said earlier, we go away from there, each one of us giving a commitment of what we're going to achieve by the next time, or at a time scale, but a commitment that's out there for when we meet next, we're going to revisit that commitment, however long a time scale that may be. So we're helping each other. I think today it's an unusual thing. A lot of people have mentors, which is great, but this is like a collective of mentors. And having a collective of mentors means we've all got different angles and perspectives and the way we see things, different opinions that we can draw from. And I think that's a key element. And it doesn't mean that we have to be in a mastermind with particular individuals, you know, one's an accountant, one's a developer, whatever. It's just other people's creative minds helping our creative minds. And when we can get to that place, great things can happen. And that's
indeed.
an element of it. Hopefully I've explained it well enough, Melvin.
So I don't know whether that was your summary of only a full journeys alone, but is there anything in summary or that you'd like to close with to kind of just expand on that, or have you done that now?
I think we've done it. There's one final statement, which I mentioned earlier.
Okay, let's go for it.
And this was where, when we were working on the ethos at Case Mastermind, which you, Melvin, put a lot of work into, and a lady called Jill Mullins has also contributed really well to as well. And was this phrase from Ken Blanchard, that none of us is as smart as all of us. That power of that collective mind.
Yeah, that's a very good line. Very good line for everyone to think and mull on. It's something definitely that we should always be thinking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Melvin. So to those joining us today, just a quick breakaway from our discussion there, just to let you know that if you wanted to know more or be a part of the Case Mastermind community, all you need to do is follow the links in the notes below to our website to find out more. And I'll see you there, in case you didn't already know. And now let's go back to the discussion.
So Patrick, have you anything more to enlighten us with? Because if not, we can move on to our next stage.
Well, the next stage to sum that all off is that we do like our listeners to give us feedback. And as ever, we always like to give out a word of that particular month. So for the merry month of April, in the review, for a chance to win a prize, please include the word mastermind. If you put that in a review or in your post on social media and tag us in, hashtag Case Mastermind, or link us in with one of your social media platforms, we will see those and we will award what we feel is the best one, a prize for that month. And of course, that word again leads us on to the next type of word, Melvin.
It does. So last month, I provided the word of the month, just a random word of the month. Do you remember what that word was, Patrick, by any chance?
I do, Melvin.
Would you like me to remind you, or would you like to enlighten us on your memory powers?
I think memory powers as far as that I wrote it down. Are you referring to the word obdurate, Melvin?
I am indeed. And did you happen to have a look at what the meaning of the word obdurate?
Well, I always do, Melvin, because I know that when we have our word exchange that we have each month, Melvin, it's always some sort of dig in my direction. So I did, but please explain what your meaning of obdurate was?
Obdurate that I have found in the various dictionaries, but the consensus is it's being stubborn and refusing to change one's opinion. Do you feel comfortable with that, Patrick?
Well, yeah, but I think there's a synonym of stubborn, Melvin, that I like to refer to, and that's steadfast.
Oh, that's a very nice.
Steadfastness, you see, and
Yeah.
someone who's steadfast sticks to their principles and holds firm to their beliefs. So, what one can view as stubborn could also be viewed by another as steadfast. Could it not, Melvin?
Well, that's right. But the word I have ready and it's hot to trot for next month's podcast.
Oh, no, now, Melvin, remember we're taking.
No, hang on a minute. For the not this one because you're doing this one, but for the one that I'll be doing, will echo that particular commentary.
Oh, right, okay.
I will not steal your thunder because it's your word of the month. This particular podcast. So, Patrick, let's move on to your word, which no doubt is going to be something it's going to make me feel somewhat uncomfortable, no doubt.
I don't know what you're referring to, Melvin. So, this month, my word is the word unequivocal. So I will expound on that word next month, Melvin. As to the
I'm already shaking in my boots.
The meaning and the thoughts behind the word unequivocal. So
indeed,
leave that with you.
I can't wait for my next turn.
They're getting more direct and more venomous.
They are. It's becoming more interesting as well, and it'd be lovely that if the listeners in their feedback would like to make a comment on this particular word too.
Yeah, I think as time goes on,
meaning might be.
Oh, sorry?
And on what they believe the meaning might be and how it relates to other people.
Okay, yeah, that's very good. Yeah, definitely. It's all to provoke a little bit of thought and exchange. And I think, Melvin, it somewhat exposes the literary skills of us both, because you come out with these words that I've never heard of before, but I can only come out with words that most people know.
I know, but we're not going to go into the complicated ones. We're just looking at words that you could easily put into an everyday conversation, email, commentary, it's just a regular sentence.
There we go. So we're expanding people's vocabulary, aren't we, Melvin? Some way or form. You're definitely expanding mine.
I don't know where we're going to. We're expanding. We're exposing ourselves. We're, where do the boundaries end?
Well, I'm not too sure that the YouTube algorithm is going to favour the fact that you said you're going to expose yourself on this broadcast, Melvin. Getting a bit worried now.
Well, let's watch this space, eh?
Indeed. So, does that?
Shall we draw matters to a close, Mr. Twitchett?
I think we should. I think
they've had enough of the pair of us on this particular occasion now. It's time to get on with everyone's day.
Yes, indeed it is. We shall move swiftly onwards and upwards. So,
today, Patrick.
Pardon?
So today, for a point of difference, it's going to be a very goodbye from me.
And it's a very goodbye from him. So, folks, thank you for joining us on our broadcast. This has been brought to you by Case Mastermind, a brainstorming mastermind group that you, the listener, can be a part of. Just follow the links in the notes attached to our website and Eventbrite pages to see what events you can join us at. If you enjoy our content, please share and review. One of the talented people who leave us a great review with that month's watchword that's given out on our monthly broadcast will be selected for a prize. If you would like to hear more, please hit the subscribe button so you can hear more from the Case Mastermind team. So remember folks, listen out, listen up, and listen in. See you soon.